So this is Georg, George.
Hello.
No.
And Ludwig.
Be careful of that wing, it's about to clip your ear, mate.
Pardon?
Ludwig, your pilot, the airplane is a bit close to your head. I said, be careful, it's about to clip your ear.
Yeah.
Wow, good. So then, hi everyone, and hi Scott. It's great to have you here for our Florida and Bahamas tour briefing. And with your role as a CFI at Vananda Aviation, and knowing that you'll be doing our checkouts, we're all looking forward to any insights and advice and stories you might share. So yeah, we really think your tips and any stories you want to share will be invaluable to make this adventure both safe and unforgettable for us. So let's dive in. And to get started, could you maybe introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background? We'd love to hear more about your flying journey and anything that might help us prepare for our adventure.
Okay, brilliant. So, hello everybody. My name is Scott. I'm a current CFI working in Florida. I've been flying for a very long time, but I didn't quite take it seriously until the pandemic hit. I always had excuses of one day I will do this, one day I will do this, and it would just been discovery flights after discovery flights. During the pandemic, I took to heart something I learned when I was living in Korea. The best time to plant an oak tree, if you want to live in the shade, was 20 years ago, but the second best time to plant an oak tree is today. So stop saying one day and make it day one. So I chose that opportunity to increase my literacy and fluency. I actually, speak German about as well as maybe second grader, so somewhere just north of primary school. Enough that if I get myself lost, I can get myself unlost. And that's about it. So I took that time to start studying an aviation background. I pursued the pilot certificate, the instrument commercial seaplane ratings, and then flight instructor and instrument instructor. And now I live in Florida. I did all that in DC. I did all my training in DC. And then all my one day I will do this flying took place in New York City, Colorado, and Los Angeles.
Wow, awesome. That's very impressive. So yeah, I think you already mentioned that you speak a little bit of German, and I think you tell your son as well a little bit about it, right?
Correct. I think Mark Twain, who is a turn of the century American author during the American Civil War, he famously said that the mortal enemy of ignorance is travel. And it helps if you can't travel to at least learn another language, because then you can understand the struggles of someone who is trying to learn your language. So when you have somebody coming from, let's say Mexico or France, and maybe they've never had any exposure to English and they're just trying, they might not have the correct conjugation. So they might say like ich wollen instead of ich will. And you have to understand that, okay, I know he doesn't mean I to want. He means I want. And you work with that. And then when you make those mistakes and somebody gives you the graciousness of saying, okay, this is the actual conjugation of it, you get better as a person and they get better as a person. And I think one day we'll all be living in diapers picking fruit out of trees because we'll have no more problems.
Sounds awesome. Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Before we continue further, let's do a quick introduction round so we can all get to know each other a bit better. Please share your name and a little about your flying experiences or what you're most excited about for this trip. And yeah, we'll do the start. I go first to get things rolling. So I'm Alex. All of us know me already, just you, Scott. I have my PPLA, my pilot license since 2020, and I've now 178 flight hours. And my passion for flying started back in 2008 when a pilot spontaneously invited me to join him to a flight. And after, life threw me a few curveballs, I was finally able to fulfill my dream of earning my pilot license in 2020. Now, after so many years of dreaming of flying, I'm even more excited to take it further and fulfill my goal for flying in the US. So these are my points.
Brilliant.
I hand over to Georg or George.
Yes, maybe we can sort this out immediately. So call me George because it's easier than Georg, even if you speak some German. So
I was wondering if they were calling you George because that's your name, or if they were calling you Georg because it was spelt that way on the screen and they were making fun of you.
it's Georg. So
Okay. I wasn't sure if you started writing George and then, misspelt it.
no.
and they were just going to take the piss at your expense.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
but basically I'm traveling a lot to Asia, and I always know people especially in Asia, they have problems to spell Georg. So I immediately introduce myself as George. So, and I noticed you lived in Korea, or you traveling to Korea? Or?
I was in the US Army for 10 years.
Okay. Okay, so because I have some friends in South Korea, so because I'm traveling quite often there, unfortunately, I never did some flying there. It's possible, but very difficult. So I started my pilot career 25 years back now with some ultralight flying. These days, I had plenty of time, so I did a lot of hours in the ultralight plane. When the kids were born in 2003, my first son, I changed to the real pilot license. Unfortunately, time is limited, and in these 25 years, I only made 400 something hours flying. So my intention is to go for some flying holidays. So I flew in Costa Rica, in Texas, in what was it, in Grand Prairie in Texas, and also South Africa. And so Florida is my next destination. Unfortunately, my last flight in the US is 11 years ago now. So I'm a bit scared about the BFR. So let's see what you can tell us today. And I'm very much looking forward to this trip and meeting you in person.
All right, brilliant.
So I think now it's my part. My name is Ludwig. You can call me Vic. It's shorter. My career started in 2006 with microlight, I think you call it in the US. Then I did real airplane flying with my pilot license PPLA in 2009. Back then it was a national license, limited to 750 kilograms max takeoff weight. Then I made 2,000 kilograms, and 2014 the FCL rules came out, and then I did my real PPLA totally for ICAO. In the meantime, I did flight instructor for microlights and aerobatics, and then I started teaching real airplane flying PPLA with class rating instruction, and then LAPA license teaching, which is the leisure aviation pilot license in Europe. It's a European license, and then came the commercial pilot license, and now I'm a flight instructor for all the classes, and CPL, also commercial pilot VFR. So this is some of my way. I'm also a pilot mechanic. This was my first apprenticeship in 1987 till 1990 for the German Air Force. So this was my background.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Right. So as you can tell, Vic probably has the most experience of the group. And well, yeah, as for me, I'm Monica and I'm organizing this exciting tour alongside with Alex. And I earned my PPL at the end of 2018 and I've accumulated around 260 hours of flight time. And I also have some experience flying in the US as I lived there in Minneapolis for about a year and a half. And yeah, I'm always eager to explore new countries and regions, so mostly in Europe as of today. And yeah, I love sharing those experiences with others, which is exactly why we're here today. And okay, so now that we've introduced ourselves, so we have a little agenda for today, and we hope to be ready around 1 o'clock your time, Scott.
Okay.
So the agenda is as follows. We'll begin with a review of the local procedures, ground and air at FA 83, so Orlando North, and maybe also Kissimmee. And next we'll then go over the requirements for checkouts and BFRs. After that, we'll discuss our routes in Florida and the Bahamas, and hopefully we can tap into some of your experience, Scott, to address any questions that have come up so far. And finally, we're gonna determine when and where we want to meet for the checkouts with you. So you already indicated the time, but I think for the next day, we should still talk about when and where to meet. And yeah, if there are then any remaining questions at the end, we'll take the time to address them before wrapping up.
Okay, brilliant.
Good. Yeah, so
Sorry.
go ahead.
No, so let's start with the agenda. So I think most interested is with the procedures of the checkouts and BFRs.
Okay.
Especially for the ones who have never flown in the US. I think it's a bit, we're a bit nervous now. So would be a pleasure if you can, let us know how it works.
Yeah, we
Well,
all
Americans will notoriously do any unit of measurement as long as it's not metric. Americans notoriously will do that. So, I mean, and I'm not even kidding you, they will tell you the airplane is 3 Monicas long. And you're like, what unit of measurement is a Monica? Like, how do you compute that? And they say, well, you know, it's 1 Monica is equivalent to like 6 watermelons. You're like, why are you making it so difficult? So that's the first thing you need to know is in aviation in the States, everything is going to bounce back and forth between imperial and metric. With the exception of we use inches of mercury as a standard instead of millibars.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have to worry too much about the conversion because there isn't going to be a controller who's going to give you it in millibars. And it even says that in all of our instrument approach plates. It'll say, hey, if you're doing an instrument approach, your altimeter is going to be set to inches of mercury. So the international flights, they actually will have a millibars on one side and inches of mercury on the other. We only have inches of mercury. The procedures for flying at, and I presume it's the same if you're flying at an untowered field anywhere, you set your altimeter to the field level if you don't have a barometric pressure setting. That will work because the internal casing is always going to be set to standard level of 1013 or 2992. So when you set it to field level, your barometric pressure is always going to then be correct, whether it be 2992 or 30.10. So FA83, we always set to the field level, which is approximately 80 feet MSL, or you guys say QFE. So we're gonna say, I'll just use MSL instead of QNH and QFE and all those other, because there's so many of them that back and forth. So I'll just say MSL and AGL to keep it simple, because that's what you're going to hear over and over again on the radio.
Okay.
So at Orlando North, we're going to set it to the MSL altitude, which is 80 feet. And that's the setting for your altimeter. When you go to Kissimmee, they're actually going to give you a barometric pressure in the weather briefing, which is the ATIS. And they'll say the barometric pressure window, and they'll say it's like, 30.2 or 30.1 or 30.03. And then you just dial that in. Germans being known for being uniquely specific. Germans will like count down pi to like the 50th decimal before they consider it correct. So the phrase in the United States is you don't have to be German with it.
Okay.
If
Cool.
you just get it close enough. So if you're like, I can't find 30.03, 30.0 is just fine. You're going to be off by at that point. You're only going to be off by 2 feet. And if you can't tell the difference between like the air and the ground with 2 feet, then maybe aviation is not a good thing. So that's the easy thing about it. At FA-83, it's completely private, and it's untowered. There's only the one runway. There's only the one taxiway. And like anything else in standard, you standardize by, if you want to take off headed to the east, we enter the runway 279. So if you want to take off to the east, you'll say I'm back taxiing on 9, taking off runway 9, instead of saying I'm taxiing on 27 to runway 9. Because somebody who's just haphazardly listening to the radio might hear 27, and they might want to come in on 27 when you're getting ready to take off on 9. So keep communications simple. The pattern altitude at the majority of the airports is accepted as 1,000 feet above the field elevation. There's a few places in which that is not the case. So if you're planning on landing somewhere, just research that beforehand. And if you have a known place, for instance, let's say you're going to fly, your first point of landing is going to be Fort Lauderdale. We'll look at the Fort Lauderdale chart supplement, and we'll see inside of it to make sure that, and if you guys use ForeFlight, or okay, so if you use ForeFlight, you just scroll down on the information brief, and it'll tell you light aircraft what the pattern altitude is. Generally, it's 1,000 feet above whatever the field elevation is. You'll typically know if the pattern altitude is not going to be that, because there's some sort of obstruction, and it'll be listed on the chart, or if it's very clearly right under another major airport, in which if you were at 1,000 feet above, you'd be in somebody else's airspace. So usually it's pretty easy to figure it out just by looking at it. Flying out of Orlando North, we're going to make left traffic. The standard pattern is left traffic. It's untowered, so it is kind of a Wild West of however you get the airplane on the ground, as long as there's nobody else that you're going to slam into, is generally accepted. Because it's completely private. The only people that are flying there are the people who belong there. And it is a wee bit of a circus.
Okay.
Point, Georg, I think you had a question, right?
Yes,
regarding...
yes. Because the normal round is a right-hand traffic, but I couldn't find anything on the sectional chart. But on the website, I found that 09 is a left-hand traffic, and the other one is a right-hand traffic. This is correct?
I think the other way around it was, but there was a right.
I'll look at the sectional. I don't think it says that on the sectional.
No.
Give me 1 second, and I will.
On the sectional, there's nothing. On the sectional, there's nothing.
Oh, okay.
It's just on the website of the airstrip.
Yeah.
Let's
So
see,
like
'cause
they have
usually, let me look at runways and see.
Yeah, so
So it's on his website for Orlando North?
Yes, it's on his website. They state, I think it's 09 is a left hand and the other one is a right hand. Maybe I mix it up, but that's what I found on the website. But on the sections chart, there's nothing mentioned like this.
You're probably if they've listed on their website, then that's what they want. But if it's not on the sectional, you know, it is unfortunately reality of I've looked at it. The sectional does not tell me that it is
Yeah.
any particular traffic, so I'm going with what the FAA says.
Okay.
If you get corrected, you get corrected. It is a published airport, even though it is private. And if it's not listed on the sectional, then you know, then that's kind of on them.
Maybe
Because
that's the reason
if
why-
their
why-
website were down for whatever reason, or if their website were to get hijacked,
Yeah.
then they can't come back and say, well, it was supposed to be right traffic and you did left traffic. There's nothing in ForeFlight. There's nothing on the sectional. The FAA says it's left traffic unless otherwise published.
Yeah.
And because a website can be changed rapidly, it's the FAA wouldn't consider something on the internet like that as an official document.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I come in straight in. I make left turns. I make right turns. Sometimes I just, you know, pull the airplane above the runway and pull the power, just come straight down. Oh, I think I turned off my camera. Am I back?
Not yet. I thought you were changing the screen or so, and that's why the camera turned.
Well, I was, and then I came back.
No, but you're still not visible.
Now I'm stuck on a screen where I can only see me.
Maybe you want to quickly.
Oh, there we go. No, I don't need to. When I change the screen, it goes to the phone call because the iPhone treats this as a phone call, even though it's video.
Right.
Anyway, I was just being silly. I said sometimes I'll just come in right over the runway and pull the power and just roll down. At Kissimmee, it's published that they have a right pattern traffic. However, because it's towered, tower can tell you to do whatever they need you to do to alleviate their workload. So on the right pattern runway, they might tell you left. On the left pattern runway, they might tell you right.
If they don't say anything?
If they don't say anything, then you go in whatever the standard publication is.
Right.
So I believe it's 6 and 2-4 are right pattern. Let's see, what else can I tell you about the as you're flying from Orlando North to Kissimmee, headed south, be aware of the Disney World flight restriction.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah, it's one of the only TFRs that's published because it's so continuous.
Okay.
And it's you're requested to stay above 3,000 feet. Now, if you're at 2,000 feet, they're going to yell at you. But if you're at 2,900 feet, they'll probably whine and scream into the air. But they can't really do anything. Because Disney notoriously changes the rules. So on a Monday, their field elevation might be 0, and on a Tuesday, their field elevation they might report it as 200. And they do that to try and just keep people out of their airspace. They're like, oh no, he was at 3,000, and on Wednesday we told everybody that our park was now at 200 feet above the ground. So he needed to be higher than he was. But usually the local ATC tells them to, just get off.
Right.
Depending on when you're flying, there are fireworks to be aware of. So even if you're away from the TFR, they are going to be launching fireworks. I believe it's nightly at about 9 p.m. So if you guys want some cool visuals, if you go out to the west, you can fly around and you'll get to watch the fireworks from the air.
Well, I mean, 2 of us do have a night flying license, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, barely.
That's about all I can tell you about Kissimmee. And you have all four of you have flown through towered airports?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're used to what the symbols and signs mean and where to stop and because
Yeah.
all you got to show me is that you know how to fly the airplane. If you drive the airplane somewhere it's not supposed to be, that's on you. That's not on me.
Right. I think there were some further questions from Georg, and I don't know. Do you recall them, or should I? Because I've written them down, I can also. Shall I? Okay. So one question was regarding the runway. It says it has 4,000 feet, but it's actually, I think, shorter because there's a grass strip at the end.
It's 4,000 feet based on Javier measurements. So it's 16 Javiers long.
16
Oh man,
what?
you guys are being way too German for me. That was a really
Metric.
funny joke because it was a measurement, so I gave you a different measurement. So
Right.
the official length of the runway is 4,000 feet.
Mhm.
It is 2,500 feet paved, 1,500 feet unpaved.
Mhm.
The reality of the situation is the runway is only 2,500 feet. There is a sod farm on the west side, which they have. I don't know if they have them in Germany. It's this gigantic hose on wheels that just kind of like goes around and waters.
Oh, yeah.
When they're not using it, they're supposed to put it parallel with the runway,
Mhm.
but they're always leaving it perpendicular.
Oh,
Which means that that additional 1,500 feet is, I've only seen it usable 6 times in the past 2 years.
mhm.
So I would just go and make it known to yourself that we only have 2,500 feet to take off and land.
Okay, that's fine.
It's easily doable. You know, I've had 3 people in the airplane with full tanks of fuel at max weight, and we were able to take off. Just use an additional flap setting.
Right. So we're all used to take off and land on very short strips. So we have, I don't know how that translates into feet, but we have 400 meters where we all learn to fly. So it shouldn't be an
That's
issue.
even shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's even shorter.
This is 1,200 feet.
Yeah.
Mhm. Good.
Yes, you guys will be fine. The only thing you'll have to worry about is your weight. So yeah, you've learned on 400 meters, but you've learned with just 1 or 2 people in the airplane, like yourself and the instructor. So if you're putting bags and other people in the airplanes, your ground roll and your takeoff and landing are going to be longer.
Right. And once we actually did a flight where we put 4 people into one plane and we tried how that worked for us. So we wanted to experience how that feels if you sit in a full loaded plane, and yeah, also worked.
And we have a little.
Yeah, it'll work. You just need a longer runway to be able to do it. Now, right now in Florida, the weather is fairly calm and a little bit cool. Your density altitude is going to be pretty close to the actual altitude, maybe, you know, about 1,000 feet greater, which for density altitude purposes is next to nothing.
Yeah, cool. All right. Then regarding fuel, it says also on the website that it's available on weekdays in Orlando North. So is that true? So if we fly on the weekends, we will have to fuel somewhere else?
There is fuel on the field. You'll have to speak with John about his machine. I typically use his fuel card because I'm flying the 172, which he rents them fueled. But there's an error on the screen that says your credit card may not be accepted, or maybe it says that you might not receive a receipt. I forget which one. I'd imagine that because the fuel card is a magnetic strip. Are you guys using magnetic strips, or do you have the EMV?
The EMV, what is that?
The pin and chip, the Eurocard, Master, and Visa.
Yeah, Master and Visa we have.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you Does your card, because I remember Europe wanted to get rid of the magnetic strip. Do they still have the magnetic strip? Or is it all pin and chip?
I think they still have, but I don't know if it's if it's still working. So I think
No.
at the moment everything is with RFID, I think, with a chip inside. I'm not so sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a black strip on card.
Yeah, so there is fuel on the field. The pump is autonomous unless the power goes out, then it has to be turned back on. I fly on the weekends and I've had no problem filling up.
Mhm. Okay.
I think he just puts that because he doesn't want people landing there randomly on the weekends. The fuel on the field is currently 6.5,
Mhm.
which is a little bit more expensive, but in line with most places in the Central Florida area. I typically fly to the X-Ray 2-3, about 10 minutes to the north. And right now they have fuel at 4.70.
Mhm.
I think it was 4.80 the other day,
Okay.
which makes it significantly cheaper.
Mm.
Once you guys start going towards the Bahamas, you're gonna look at $9 fuel and say, wow, that $6.50 was really cheap.
Yeah.
I would use Orlando North as my base, and then I would make sure to fill up at X-Ray 23,
Mhm.
simply because it's a lot cheaper. Now, you'll look on the map and you'll be able to find where things are. Maybe you're like, hey, it's 4.70 here, but it's 5.10 there. I don't really want to waste the time flying away from my destination. I don't mind spending a couple extra dimes to get closer and still get fuel.
Mm. Right. So it will be a wet rate. So the question is, I mean, if we get cheaper.
Are you flying the 182 or the 172?
172.
Okay. I thought you were in the 182. Excellent. If you're flying the 182, anywhere that you get fuel, John reimburses up to 6.5.
Right.
You just have to keep your receipt, and he will still pay for the fuel, but he'll stop his payment at 6.5.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, that's a fair price.
Sorry, I thought you guys were flying the 182, not the 172.
Yeah, we couldn't find anyone for the 182, so now we have 172, right?
Okay.
One last question that we had up front was on the speed indicator of the 172s. Is that in miles per hour or knots?
It depends on which one you're in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at one point in time, the Americans have said, hey, we really don't want to use this miles per hour. We should probably use knots. And they said, yeah, that's a great idea. And then the next year they changed their minds. And then the next year they changed it back.
Okay.
Because if there's anything Americans do, it's we love change as much as we love staying the same.
Oh.
But then we changed that too.
Okay.
Okay.
Like we didn't even like how many stars we had on our flag, so we just kept adding them.
Hmm.
And then we ran out of room.
Okay.
I have one more question about the ADS-B.
Yes, sir.
What should be aboard on both planes? How do I connect my iPad with the ADS-B? Can I get GPS signal from there, or do I need a separate GPS receiver?
You can receive a signal from the airplane. I believe you guys are flying them with the it has a G375, Garmin G375.
Okay.
Monica, I can send a link to the App Store in which you can download a test version of this.
Okay.
However, I don't know if it's in the European App Store.
Okay.
Like my father, he lives in Seelof, and his App Store is in Great Britain. So there are certain things that I can't send to him because it's just not in his App Store.
Right. I mean, I do have an American one as well, because when I lived there, I opened another account. So at least one of us will be able to access that.
Okay, and it's just for practice to play with it. I'm going to go over all of the buttons. It's very intuitive. It's one of the nicer radios that is made. It has a Bluetooth signal that comes out. in theory, up to 5 people can connect to it, but in reality, only one person can connect to it.
Okay.
But you know, on paper, the radio works. In reality, I've only ever gotten one person to connect to it at a time. If 2 people connect to it, depending on whose iPad is sending the ping, the other person's iPad might disconnect.
Okay.
So I would have it as person flying, person navigating.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be just fine.
Cool.
So does that answer your question? Oh, and you'll also get traffic on your iPad as well.
Yeah.
You'll get traffic and weather on your iPad from the plane.
Yeah. But if we have more than one iPad aboard, then we should have a separate GPS receiver or a Stratrox or something.
If you want to. Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if it was just like a bad day for the airplane, because these things should be able to connect. Like I have Bluetooth receivers that I put in the airplanes, and I can have 7 people connect to it without a problem. So I don't know if we were just doing it wrong, or it was a Wednesday. I woke up and I had a half a liter of coffee instead of a cup of coffee, and the universe was like, "Hey, that's not American."
I just check on the web on the App Store. So it's the GTN 372, or what is it? What you mentioned?
375. It should read Garmin Trainer.
Yeah. I have the Garmin Trainer, but the 375 is not on it. It's a 75, 725, 65, but not the 375. Unfortunately.
All right.
I have the Garmin Trainer here.
All right. Let me look on my App Store and see what I can find. Oh, I don't think it's even going to show. It's not going to show it to me because I'm on my phone. They only make it for the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even going to show it to me. But it's called like the GTX Trainer or the Garmin Trainer.
Yeah, I have this. So that's available in the App Store, but not for the model you mentioned, for the Garmin.
What models can you see?
I can see the GTN 750, 725, 650, 635, and 625.
Okay, you're looking at a different app.
Okay.
So I can grab my iPad later and look at exactly what the app is.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, you used to be able to see apps that you couldn't get, but now they're like, no, you people are so stupid that we're not even going to show you things you can't have, and just telling you that it's not available.
Okay. So I'm looking a little bit at the time, so maybe we should move on to the next topic, unless there are any questions for local procedures until now. But I think that everyone's fine. Okay, great. Good. So then, yeah, now that we've covered local procedures, let's move on to the next topic, which is checkout and VFR requirements. So
Okay.
I forwarded the information that you gave me, Scott, to the group already. So yeah, maybe I start with one question, which we weren't able to clarify eventually. So that was the emergency descent. So I tried to look it up in YouTube, and there were several approaches how to perform that. And I know we talked on the phone, and you explained it, and then I said very quickly, yeah, because I remembered a procedure which I flew with a CFI in the US. But I'm not sure anymore if that was really what you meant. So maybe you can share some explanation on what that actually means.
Okay, well, emergency descent is exactly what it sounds like, versus in-flight emergency. Emergency descent is everything's gone to hell and you need to get on the ground quickly and as safely as possible. It just means to get the airplane down without breaking it apart.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an in-flight emergency, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get on the ground, right? We have the firewall that separates the cabin from the engine. That firewall can tolerate, I believe it's something up to 1,000 degrees centigrade for about 11 minutes before it degrades. If you have a fire, your engine is already out, so just put all of the throttle forward, all of the mixture forward, and just, you know, as the American racetracks like to say, haul ass to the nearest airport. Don't worry about it. The airplane's already broken. Just get there. Once the fire comes inside the cockpit, then you need to do emergency descent procedures. The person flying the airplane, whether they're on the left side or the right side, is going to be the person in charge, and they're going to make it so that their comfort is maximized. Meaning, if somebody is sitting in the left side of the airplane, they're going to turn the airplane left and downward, so all the smoke goes upwards and right. Because the person flying the airplane wants to be able to see. Your goal is at that point to put so much air over the airplane and through the airplane that the fire is either put out or mitigated. And once that's completed, then you're going to go through your procedures for an engine out landing. And the easy way to remember that is A, B, C, D. A is going to be your airspeed, which is you're going to look for the maximum glide ratio. In our airplane, it's approximately 75 knots. Unless it's in miles per hour, then it's a different number. Because American airplanes. So A is airplanes, is airspeed. B is your best landing spot. Pick a spot that you think you can make it to. You know, as quickly as possible. Remember the landing strip below you and the landing strip beneath you. I tell people, you know, every 15, 20, 30 minutes, look around and think, if I had an engine failure right now, where would I go? Because you may have just flown over an airport. Right? C is your checklist, your flow. If you have you're having an emergency procedure, I start from the left side of the airplane, I work my way to the center, and then I move down. What that means is I want to check and make sure that the master is on, that I didn't accidentally turn off the magnetos. So I'm going to check the keys, and if the keys are still set to the both position, I'm going to turn it off and turn it back on. Then I'm going to check the battery and the alternator by flipping the two red rocker switches. Now there are two of them, but people almost never flip them singularly. Then I'm going to, so the next part after that, you have all of your circuit breakers. You're going to check and make sure anything didn't pop. And if it did pop, you just push it back in. That's how a circuit breaker works. And if it doesn't pop right back out, you may have avoided it. Continuing to move rightwards, you have your throttle. Make sure the throttle's not out. Continuing rightwards, you have your mixture. Make sure you didn't accidentally pull the mixture. If you did pull the mixture, go back to the left and begin an engine start procedure. From there, you're going to move downwards, and you're going to see your fuel tanks and your fuel shutoff valve. Make sure that your fuel tanks are set to both. The Cessna is a gravity-driven fuel system. So if you have it set to both, it's going to equally pull into the strainer and then distribute into the engine. But if you have it set to left, the fuel is just going to stay there. So make sure it's set to both, that it didn't get bumped. It's not going to turn to off. Like, it can swing back and forth between left, both, and right, but it cannot swing to off unless you intentionally pull the lever up and then rotate it clockwise or anti-clockwise to the off position. Just next to the fuel selector valve is going to be the fuel cutoff valve. Make sure that somebody's pant leg didn't grab it and pull it out. And if you see it's out, just push it back in. If it doesn't look like it's out, just try to push it back in anyway, because it might not be observed to be out, but it is. That's the memorization check flow. If the engine still didn't start, on the back of the checklist in the airplane is going to be an in-flight emergency procedures checklist, which is going to individually identify all of the procedures I've just outlined. You could just go through and check off, make sure you didn't miss one. And then it's going to go through what to do next. D is to declare an emergency. Depending on what the emergency is in the United States, you're going to change your transponder code to either 7500, which is highly unlikely because that means that you're being hijacked. 7600 means that your main radio has gone out and you can no longer talk to anyone. And 7700 means some other type of emergency. The way I tell people to remember it is if you're composing a letter to your friend, you would say, "Hi, Jack, can't talk now, something's wrong."
Yeah.
So if you're having an in-flight emergency and it's not the first two, you put 7700 in the transponder code, and then you go through and then you prepare for landing. You've picked your best spot, you find it. You want to try and land at the lowest airspeed possible because you're going to land on a very rough surface. And the field that you picked, once you've picked a field, do your best to not second guess yourself. But don't second guess yourself while you're trying to pick a field because that's just a delay. That, you know, altitude is currently your friend, you have it, but once you don't have it, then you become a statistic. There's not too much to worry about in regards to farmland, like flying in DC, in which, oh, is that farmland? Can I land there? Can I not? In DC, I had to worry about, you know, furrows, which are how they plant the crops. If you see furrows like black lines, land parallel to the furrows, don't land perpendicular to the furrows. Parallel to the furrows, like the wheels will just kind of find themselves in a groove and just stay there, but perpendicular to the furrows, the plane is gonna oscillate until it crashes and flips. Prior to your touchdown, you're going to want to, you know, not like immediately, but maybe, you know, 500 feet before touchdown, turn off every single power source, right? We've determined that there is an emergency. The master is off, the magnetos are off, the fuel selector valve is set to off, and the fuel cutoff is set to off. You want to contain that fuel inside of the buoys so that it doesn't spill out and cause a larger problem. Then you want to remove your, not remove your seatbelts, you want to open the doors and windows, because upon impact, remember, this is just an aluminum can. Upon impact, it might crush, and then the doors and windows might not be able to be opened. So prior to touchdown, everything is turned off, fuel is turned off, selector lever is set to off, unlock the doors and open the windows. After touchdown and the airplane is stopped, if you have passengers in the back, the people in the back get out first. And the reason for that is it's easier to pull the seat forward than it is to push the seat forward. And then all of you guys have good haircuts, so don't go to the front of the airplane or you'll get an additional haircut.
All right.
Are there any questions on that? I hope I was pretty clear.
Yes.
Okay.
So I would have a question. So this now sounded like the real scenario. So when it actually is the case that we have fire on board or whatever. So what is it that you actually want to see during the exercise in the checkout flight?
During the exercise, it's going to be, can you lose altitude without gaining airspeed, which is going to be called a forward slip. That's going to be an emergency descent. And then it's, can you go through a simple memorization flow, A, B, C, D? And then the place that you've picked as your landing spot, could you have achieved a successful landing there?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. We're not gonna go down. We'll probably go down to maybe 500 or 600 feet, depending on, you know, where we are on the geography. You don't want to go there. There's not too many communities, but imagine if you were just having your morning coffee and your morning juice, and an airplane's like coming right for your house. You might be woken up quicker than the coffee can do.
Hmm. Okay. And so what was the first part? You said like a slip. So,
So a forward slip
mm-hmm,
is you want to push the nose forward
mm-hmm.
and then flip the airplane.
Okay, right.
So you're going to be coming down at some angle. And
Mhm.
what that does is it changes your vertical component of lift to your horizontal component of lift.
Mhm.
But by turning the airplane to one direction and putting the opposite rudder, you're forcing the airplane to stay straight. And with the vertical component of lift not being able to hold you up, you are descending rapidly while maintaining like a straight line through the air. So you're not gaining airspeed.
Okay. And will the
And
engine
that's called a forward slip.
forward slip? And the engine will be on idle, I guess, at that point.
Ish. I mean, we don't want to barrel into the ground.
I mean, it won't be
I'm
off.
allergic to that.
Oh, so am I. But I mean, it won't be off, right? You won't turn it off, so it will just
Correct,
be
correct.
on.
No,
there.
there's no point in turning the engine off. If the
Right.
engine's on idle, you're running maybe somewhere between 700 RPMs and 1,100 RPMs.
Mhm.
It's not enough for the airplane to fly,
Mhm.
but it's enough for the airplane to be simulated as if it were no engine.
Okay. And it will be 75 knots, you said, for the best glide speed.
Approximately, yes.
Okay. Mhm.
The checkout procedure is a pass private pilot check ride. We go out, we do something. I'll ask you if you would like me to demonstrate it first, and then you do it, and I give you 3 attempts to do it. As long as you've done it 3 times, as long as you've been able to do it within 3 attempts, we're good.
That's fantastic
The-
because I never did this slip before. It's a good
Okay.
thing.
For me, yeah.
You may have, but they might call it something different.
No, I think not.
So there's, when you're landing in a crosswind, there's called the side slip.
Yeah,
So you're coming straight ahead, but your airplane is actually coming like this,
Yeah.
and then at the last minute
Yeah.
yeah.
so that's called a
It's a
crab
bit more like
or
a
a
crab
side
angle.
slip. Mhm. And then if you have ever come to land at an airport and you were higher than you needed to be on
Mhm.
final, it's more than likely that you've done a forward slip and you didn't realize it.
That's what I've practiced once or twice with a CFI. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Or you
It's
take it around.
say again.
Or you do it to go around.
Oh yeah. Or you go around. Yeah, that's the simplest thing to do.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, good to know. Yeah.
But no, this is it's my checkouts and my flight reviews are stress-free. It's if you honestly can't get it, but you're close, I'm not gonna say, oh hey, no, you can't fly the airplane. We're gonna work. None of you are gonna work unless you crash the airplane. None of you are gonna walk away not being able to go fly John's airplanes. All right, so don't worry about it. Gorg, I just had a guy from Korea fly. He hasn't flown an airplane in 15 years.
Ooh.
And he was all sorts of nervous. And I said, well, the more nervous you are, the more likely you are to crash. So don't kill me. Let's go fly.
Hmm.
And we went out. He actually flew the airplane better than his ATP counterpart, who had recently flown 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good.
The process for taking off is going to be out of FA-83. Because it's untowered, we're going to monitor the CTAF, the Common Traffic Advisory. We're going to let somebody know that we're taking off, where we're going. Climb out to, we might go to 3,000 feet MSL. From there, we're going to do our clearing turns to make sure the air is clear. It's small, but it's a rather large, small flight school. So we're going to do our clearing turns because they might be, flying around. We're going to perform a slow flight, which simulates what the airplane controls are going to feel like upon landing. We're going to do a power off stall, which simulates what happens when you bleed off too much airspeed before landing and you have lost your aerodynamic lift. After that, we are going to clean up the airplane. We're going to do a power arm stall, which simulates a greater angle of rotation than required, and you lose aerodynamic lift. So we're going to do the recovery procedures for both. We will do a steep turn, which is simply the ability to get yourself out of a situation. Since all of you are VFR pilots, a steep turn is going to help you if you are just flying along, you're not paying attention, and all of a sudden there's a cloud. And you're like, oh, I didn't want to be here. Let me get out of this real quick. But you can't afford to sink because you now might have gone into the cloud and you can't see anything below you. You don't want to sink out of the cloud and crash into a cell phone tower that you didn't know was there. We're not going to do them to both sides unless you want practice doing them to both sides. After that, you're going to lose your engine and you're going to tell me where we're landing.
Okay.
Simple.
Right.
I think
Okay.
the clearance turn is not very common in Europe. Is it the procedure where you turn left for 90 degrees and then 180 degrees in the other way around?
That would be 270 degrees of turning, and that's a whole lot of turning. It has to be two 90-degree turns or one 180-degree turn. The FAA is currently in the process of reviewing whether you need to fly that or just visually observe that it is clear.
Mhm.
A lot of times you cannot see an airplane, but you can see what they're doing. So if you see an airplane turning and then turning, you can make the assumption that they are probably getting ready to do some maneuvers, and it gives you a chance to avoid them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. We're just going to make a gentle turn 90 degrees, gentle turn 90 degrees in the other way. And this will just it's just additional practice with flying the airplane. I think three of you have recently flown. I'm looking at you. So just for you to get a little bit more comfortable with the airplane.
All right. Okay, so as it regarding the ground, how did you say it? Call it?
Ground knowledge.
Yeah, ground knowledge review, exactly. Can you maybe tell a little bit more about that?
The ground knowledge review is going to be all the things that you'll need to know prior to taking off, things that you might take for granted. If you fly every day, you're like, oh, you might not realize that you do these things, but you do them, and that's fine. You're not required to have it if you have a current flight review. I sent you the link for the syllabus of what I'm going to use, and I'm just going to go through all of that.
Did you send it already, or will you?
I believe I did. If you don't have it, I'll send it again. This way it's at the top of your email.
Okay, I will check and let you know.
Well, I'll send it again anyway. It doesn't.
Okay,
It's no worries.
cool.
And what's going to go on in there is different altitude sectors, different airspace sectors, cloud clearance, weather requirements, radio calls, airport signs. You know how to know when you're on the ground at an airport and they say to go this direction and you're looking at this sign, which direction are you going to go? So if the sign is black, that's where you are. If the sign is yellow with an arrow, then that's the one that you want, then that's the thing that you follow. If the sign is red, that means it's part of a runway. And then it is listed in the fashion that from left to right, whatever you're approaching. So if you are approaching runway 279 from the south, the sign is going to read 279. If you're approaching that runway from the north, it's going to read 927. Because it's always going to be from left to right, whichever way you are looking at the runway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, makes sense. Right, so looking at the time, we're already a little bit over. So would you mind, Scott, if we take maybe 10 minutes more of your time?
Oh yeah, you've got me until you don't need me anymore.
Okay, well, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, is there any more questions regarding checkouts or BFRs at this point?
I think the next point is the meeting point and where we meet, where we'll have the check right, and are we discussing now?
Yeah, absolutely. Who is going to be the final person coming in?
That's me.
Oh, okay. That makes it easy because you're probably the one who's going to need the most time.
Shit. I expected this.
So Monica, because I misunderstood and I thought 3 people or 4 people needed flight reviews, who does not need a flight review of the 3 of you?
Alex and I.
You do not need a flight review.
Right.
You just need a checkup. Okay, easy peasy. And then Vic, do you want to do the checkout all in the same day, or do you want to, since you need a flight review and George needs a flight review as well, do you just want to do it the next day?
I'm totally fine with the next day. It depends on organization of the
Okay.
trip.
We can do your flight with Monica and Alex, but you can't fly the airplane by yourself until you complete both the ground and the flight portion.
Okay.
And I think it would be more time efficient if instead of doing a ground session, I mean, we're gonna do a ground session, but it's gonna be really quick on the first day since everybody knows. And you're welcome to attend because you're gonna get the same information both times. But it's up to you if you want to do it on the first day or the second day. I don't have a particular preference. Either way works.
So what I was just thinking is that on the first day, we wanted to relocate both aircraft to Orlando North, so, which means that at some point there will be 2 pilots from our group flying 1 aircraft. And I thought, Scott, maybe you can take the second one and fly it back. So
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
We can Alex and Monica, which one of you is more confident that you'll to fly an airplane in American airspace?
I think Monica.
Okay.
Because she did it
Okay.
already. I'm not sure. So we will see it on Friday.
Okay, so what we'll do is, Monica, I'll do your checkout first, and we'll do the checkout en route to Kissimmee with Alex in the airplane, and then we'll hop out. You'll take the airplane back to Orlando North, and then Alex, you and I will be in the airplane, and we'll take that airplane to Orlando North. And while we're doing that, we'll do your checkout.
Okay, Monica, do you want to fly the airplane by your own?
I'm just thinking, I don't know. And on the other hand, could you do maybe, I mean, if you do Vic's flight, for example, on the first day, we could do kind of the same thing. And yeah, but then again,
So if he needs a full flight review, the FAA says he has to have logged an hour of ground and an hour of flight.
Right.
The hour of ground, I have the discretion of fudging that and say, oh no, it was a metric clock. It went so fast. But the FAA can see if the flight was, I could probably get away with like 45 minutes, but the FAA can see how long the flight was.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think, let me think about that. But after all, I think, yeah, that would be possible. I mean, it's not too complicated in that area.
Because I mean, either way, whether I fly one of the airplanes back by myself, you have to be in the airplane with the other person and saying like, do I know what I'm doing? So if it were you and Alex in the airplane, you would be flying the airplane no differently than if it was just you.
Yeah. Probably.
Just for efficiency's sake, we could do it that way, and then you would be landing at Orlando North, and we'd be getting there maybe 20 or 30 minutes later. If you're comfortable with that, then we can accomplish the flying and the checkout more quickly.
Mhm.
If you're not comfortable, totally fine. You guys will fly back to Orlando North. You can work together
Mhm.
and land the airplane, and then I will take the other airplane to Orlando North, and I'll meet you there, and then we'll just go and do the checkout there.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, sounds good.
So I'll leave it to you to decide how you want to do it.
And maybe it will be a decision after the checkout, after the check ride
Okay.
to take. So yeah. Good.
All right, brilliant.
So then both planes will be at Orlando North on Saturday morning. I'll arrive on Friday to the hotel. I think I won't make it to the airstrip that night. So we meet at the hotel, and Saturday morning will be my BFR and my checkout from Orlando North, right?
Correct. Is it the 15th and the 16th? Because I have the 14th and the 15th.
Oh, it's actually the 15th and the 16th. Yeah, because
Okay.
we on the 14th, and then also we want to get some sleep after the flight.
Would be
Oh, you're
helpful.
coming in on the 14th. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm
Okay.
coming in on the 15th, and I think I have a ETA at Orlando at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so it will take me some hours to reach the hotel. So Saturday morning I will be good for the flight review.
Okay, excellent. I'll just update my calendar because I think the days that I was given were the days of your arrival, not the days of your checkout.
Okay, yeah. So if that is fine with you, that would be great.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Great.
Just let me make sure that my wife isn't accidentally working on Saturday, 'cause she has to. Her new schedule says she has to work on some weekends.
Mm. But good that we're talking about it now, not that
Yeah.
you're waiting on in Orlando North.
Yeah, I'd have been like, "Where are you guys? You're German. You're supposed to be on time."
Yes.
Yeah, no, she's off, so I can change that. That's fine.
Great.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
And then I'm available by email or Monica, it seems like you've got a US number. So if you guys do not have a US number, I just signed up for a WhatsApp,
Oh,
and
great.
you can text me on my number, which is from Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm in Florida. If you go on WhatsApp and use that 808 number, you should be able to reach me.
Cool. Sounds good. Right. So, we still didn't talk about the time when we meet. So I think you said 9:30 on Friday.
If we meet at 9:30, it would make it a lot easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have to drop a toddler off to school.
Tiger.
Yeah, Tig. He is he mostly listens. Right? He mostly listens. He's 99% of the time a really, really good kid. But
That's
he's
more
4, and he's like, "What's the schedule? I don't care." It takes approximately 45 minutes to an hour to get to the airfield from his school. So if I was on the road I drop him off about 8:30, that gives me the time to get to the airfield about 9:30. Versus I've got to grab a 4-year-old and he's like, "Why are you stressing me out, Daddy?" I'm like, "Because I'm stressed out." So if we can meet at 9:30, that would make my morning a lot easier.
totally fine.
And if you guys are at the airfield, I may or may not get there early. And then, we'll just go from there. The good news is my students, because I almost had to miss the check ride. My student passed his instrument check ride today, so that's really good.
Wow.
He did it very early this morning, and I was like, I'm not getting up for that.
Oh.
I thought he was going to do it at 11, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be there for moral support, be a good instructor. But he's like, I'm doing it at 7 in the morning, and I was like, best of luck. I was like, I got a pillow with my name on it.
Wow.
Das Klappkissen, right?
But still, he passed, so that's good.
Yeah. Did I say that correct? Pillow, Klappkissen?
Kopfkissen.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. And Saturday, same?
Yeah. Saturday we can meet. We can meet the same time or later. Saturday is a lot more fluid. So if you guys are like, hey, I'm still tired from flying in, let's meet a little bit later, we can do that. But if not, we can just meet at the same time, 9:30.
Georg?
You're on mute, mate.
Muted. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay for me.
Okay, brilliant.
Right. So moving on, let's discuss. Oh no, we already discussed regarding so regarding our tours. I think it would make sense now to go through all the tours that we've planned so far, but just taking the chance now while Scott is here, have there any questions come up which you would like to clarify with Scott?
Yes, I have. As you know, I'm the one who has the lowest experiences. So for this reason, I'm a bit nervous of your big airfields, especially when we come back from the Bahamas. And we have planned to go back over the airport of entry to the US and Fort Lauderdale, or alternatively Palm Beach. What could you recommend, especially when you're not used to the radio, or maybe then I am, hopefully. But what could you recommend? Which airfield is much better? Which is not so crowded, maybe? Which one is better for one who's has not so many experiences?
The only thing I can, and this would be a guess, because Trump lives in Palm Beach and he just won the election, there might be a lot of activity at Palm Beach.
Okay.
Yeah. So everyone in California loved Barack Obama until he came to visit and caused a big mess of traffic. So I tell you that because he won the election, there might be a lot of activity there. Insofar as Secret Service and flight restrictions. They're very close to each other.
Yeah.
So it may, or what I'm saying might be a moot point. I'm simply guessing based on the geography and the climate of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Fort Lauderdale is probably an easier airport because they're so used to people coming back and forth from the Bahamas. They might have a little bit more patience with you on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you're clear, you say who you are, where you are, what you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you leave some things out, they will prompt them from you.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Maybe one more question. Are there any landing fees am I actually able to land in a Bravo airspace?
You can land anywhere if you say it's an emergency. Okay?
Mhm.
It's a bit of a joke, but just remember that. You can land at a military base if you say it's an emergency. Don't be afraid to like, oh, I can't land there, it's an emergency. If you're having a problem and your radios work, just say your tail number, declaring an emergency. If you forget the pan, if you forget the mayday, don't worry about it. Just say, I'm declaring an emergency. And you can land anywhere you want. Now that that's out of the way, there are landing fees depending on your usage. If you are landing and doing a tie down and you're going to be leaving the airplane, they will typically charge you a space rental fee. I don't know what they are in the south of Florida. When I fly to the southwest down to Venice Beach, the ramp fee is $15 and the handling fee for overnight is $15. But they waive that fee if you purchase at least so many gallons of fuel.
Oh yeah, okay.
Depending on what your requirements are, it may not be feasible. So whenever I go to Venice, I have to take minimum fuel, which means I can't purchase fuel from them to absorb. I would be spending $70 to save $30. So I just pay the landing fee and the handling fee, and that's for leaving the airplane overnight. You can research those by picking the airports that you may land at, and then just discussing with them Like when you call, you speak to the FBO, and the airport might have two FBOs. So call them both and find out what their fees are.
Mhm.
Because the one on the north side of the airport might be $10. The one on the south side of the airport might be $600.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it all depends on whether there's a special event going on.
Mhm.
So call them and discuss. You can get that information directly from ForeFlight. Or I believe if you just visit the website for the airport, they will tell you who the fixed based operator is, what FBO stands for, if you were unaware.
Mhm.
You can call them and say, hey, I plan on being here on the 13th, and I'm going to leave my airplane until the 15th. Are there any special events going on? What is your landing fee? What is your overnight fee? And they will without a problem discuss that with you.
Mhm. Okay. And is that only valid for towered airports or also for non-towered ones?
For untowered airports, a towered airport just means that they have a traffic controller.
Mhm.
The FBO is going to be at an airfield, whether there is a tower or not.
Mhm.
That being said, you'll just discuss with, what is the fee. So Venice, for instance, Venice is an untowered airport.
Mhm.
Because they don't have so many services, their fees are a lot cheaper. As you get down to Miami, that's where all the rich people live. So, $100 to them, they're like, whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you only have $1 million airplane? You must be so poor. So just call them and discuss with them your plans,
Mhm.
and don't shop around. If you see there's two FBOs, call them both.
Okay.
And you can even see on ForeFlight, it'll tell you what the fuels are. So if they have cheaper fuel, they probably have cheaper tie down rates.
Mhm.
Is that helpful, Alex? Or
Yeah.
Monica? That's the question. Yeah.
That works. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Vic, Georg, any more questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
And just because you don't have a question now, if you think of one later, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll do my best to answer it as quickly as possible.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Okay. So if there aren't any more questions, I would say, Scott, thank you so much for your time. And it was
You are
meeting
absolutely
you in
quite
person.
welcome. It's been my privilege.
Thank you. And yeah, we appreciate all the valuable insights that you gave us up front. So I think we're all really well prepared now to come over to Orlando, and we're all excited to meet you in person. And yeah, so thank you very much and have a great day.
Oh, the only thing I would add is, and John will have more expertise, his planes do have a customs sticker, and they do have a radio license.
Mhm.
I overheard him saying to somebody that he's never heard of anybody asking for it, but it is technically a requirement.
Mhm.
So have a chat with him about whether or not you guys should get your, I think you did tell me you do have your telephone operator's license, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, never mind, moot point. We're all good.
Yeah, perfect.
I want to give you as much information as possible, because it's better that you have too much and that you leave it behind than you don't have enough and you're like, whoopsie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's true.
And there's so much to know for this trip, so we have collected lots of information already.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to sign off. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll do my best to email you back as quickly as possible.
Oh,
It was
thank you.
lovely meeting you all. Have a great day, and I look forward to flying with you on Friday, not Thursday.
Exactly. Great.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Bye now.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Weg ist
So,
er.
und?
Ich glaube, der
Also,
ist lustig.
der ist lustig.
Ja, ne?
Ja, und wenn
Ja.
er uns wirklich seinen Fragebogen schickt, dann bin ich natürlich auch beruhigt, ne?
Ja, wie ich schon gesagt habe, der will nur sicherstellen, dass wir uns nicht in den Kopf anhauen und den Flieger nicht beschädigen, und ansonsten ist der ziemlich entspannt, und dieser Forward Slip, Ich wollte jetzt nicht fragen, wie viel Grad er die Nase unter den Horizont haben will, weil das
75 Knoten.
75 Knoten, da ist die Nase aber weit unten.
Weit
Aber
wo?
unten.
Achso. Mhm.
Aber
Aber,
ohne Klappen, oder?
aber wenn er ein Best Glide macht, macht er genau das Gegenteil von dem. Das glaube ich haut nicht hin. Weil Best Glide ist die maximale Zeit in die Air ohne Motor und wir wollen ja ein Emergency Descenten, wir wollen minimale Zeit. Also
Ja, ich habe mich auch ein bisschen gewundert, aber jetzt war ich auch zu langsam, um nochmal nachzufragen,
macht
weil
nichts.
Er
Entspann
macht
dich.
es vor.
Er hat gesagt,
Also ich hab die 75 Knoten einfach nur hey, Motor ist aus, als Best Glide
Best Glide, genau.
verstanden. Also ich
Ja.
habe nicht verstanden, dass er die 75 Knoten beim Slip sehen will.
Ja, deswegen hatte ich nochmal gefragt und dann hat er aber 75 Knoten bestätigt. Aber ich glaube, er war auch so ein bisschen unsicher. Vielleicht hat er mich nicht ganz verstanden dann an der Stelle.
Ja, ja.
wie gesagt, lass den das vorführen und dann machst du es einfach nach.
Mhm.
Und wenn du es jetzt nicht glaubst, das erste Mal passt, wie gesagt, du hast 3 Attempts und hey, der reißt den Kopf nicht ab.
Mhm.
Entspann. Also
Ja,
ich
ich
glaube
denke
nicht, dass
auch.
das schlimm wird.
Ja, also ich habe das auch so verstanden, das ist eigentlich eine zielende Übung. Also ich habe jetzt nicht verstanden, dass das hier wirklich sein superschneller Abstieg ist, wie ich ihn mal in Amerika gemacht habe, wo man mit 90 Grad in der Luft hing. Für mich war das eigentlich, so wie er es beschrieben hat, eine ganz normale Ziellandübung, oder?
Naja, sie hat ja schon mit einem Motor aus und dann diese ganzen Procedures, die du normalerweise machen würdest, ne, um den Motor wieder anzumachen und alles irgendwie
Ja.
auszuschließen an Fehlerfällen. Und dann ja wirklich schon Emergency deklären und so weiter. Das war ja das Szenario, wo er gesagt hat, so funktioniert es in echt. Und
Ja,
dann hatte ich ja nochmal gefragt, was er jetzt sehen will in diesem Checkride eben. Und dann, ja,
Aber Zeitslip.
ein Sideslip dann, ja, genau.
Und dass man dann kurz mal zeigt, ich würde dann noch das und das von links nach rechts durcharbeiten und dieses ABCD, dass man es ihm kurz
Genau.
erzählt, was man jetzt tun würde. So habe ich es verstanden. Und dann geht
Mhm.
es irgendwie auf 500 Fuß oder so runter, dass die Leute ihren Kaffee nicht verschütten und auf geht's.
Genau.
Genau.
was ich das nicht verstanden habe, war was hat er gesagt, mit seinen Nummern, die von links und rechts vorwärts und rückwärts gelesen werden, 279 und 972 oder sowas? Was
Ja,
war das?
wenn du seitlich an der Intersection stehst von der 0927, dann liest du auf dem Schild 2709.
Ach so,
Und wenn du andersrum stehst, liest du 927.
ja,
Das hat er
okay,
gemeint.
okay.
So wie halt die Bahn vor dir liegt.
Ja,
Genau.
ja, das ist klar.
Genau.
Und ich bin beruhigt, dass wir in Nordrhein und Ost den Checkout machen.
Ja, für ihn ist es gleich. Der wohnt so in der Mitte da von den beiden Flugplätzen quasi. Also.
Ja.
Ich hab jetzt die Aktion nicht verstanden, was er machen wollte, dass ich das erst am Samstag mache. Aber wie gesagt, ich mache, wann das vonnöten ist. Ich will halt die Organisation nicht sprengen.
Ich glaube,
Ja.
sein Punkt war, dass ihr beide den BFA braucht und dass ihr deswegen die Theorie zusammen in einer Gruppe macht, weil er bei uns auch schon vorgeschlagen hatte am Anfang, dachte er, wir machen alle BFA und hat er vorgeschlagen, wir 3 machen schon am Freitag gemeinsam.
Okay.
Und das hat er jetzt eben gemeint, dass man das ein bisschen effizienter gestalten kann, dass wir sozusagen, weil du halt dann erst am nächsten Tag vollkommen ausgecheckt wärst, Vic, dass wir halt, also dass Alex und ich ausgecheckt werden am ersten Tag und dann müssten wir halt zu dritt den Flieger zurückfliegen. Und um es noch effizienter zu machen, könnte halt die Alex schon auf dem Rückflug ihren Checkout machen. Hieße dann, dass ich halt alleine den Flieger wieder von Kissimmee nach Orlando North bringen muss. Und das ist jetzt das, wo wir halt, ja, wo ich wahrscheinlich nochmal in mich gehen darf, so ob ich dann mich wohlfühle. Und ich habe ihm ja gesagt, ich schaue halt vielleicht auch erst spontan dann nach dem Checkout. Ja, wenn es super lief und ich habe einen guten Tag und alles easy, dann fliege ich den auch allein zurück. Aber wenn
Ja,
ich irgendwie merke, ich bin ein bisschen
wenn ich ja da
unsicher.
dabei bin, dann kann ich mich ja bei dir mit reinsetzen. Ich mache
Deswegen hatte
natürlich
ich
nichts, ich darf nicht. Aber ich würde rechts sitzen und würde möglicherweise funken oder sowas.
aber dann, ja, also da hatte ich auch hingedacht, dass irgendwie gab es nämlich ein Szenario, wo du dann einfach mit drin bist, mit wem auch immer dann, wer
Ja.
dann schon ausgecheckt ist und der Scott fliegt dann alleine zurück. Deswegen, das habe ich jetzt so auf die Schnelle nicht hinbekommen im Kopf.
Also
Da
ich persönlich,
Da wäre es dann so, dass wir zu viert fliegen müssten. Und da war das dann Thema dann, weil dann sitzen die Moni, ich und du mit drin, während du einfach nur mitfliegst und quasi zuschaust und die Moni und ich uns dann halt abwechseln. Und da wäre dann vielleicht die Möglichkeit, dass du dann halt einfach bei der Moni dann halt einsteigst, während ich den Checkride mache. Und da
Ja,
stellt sich die Frage, ob es zu viert geht.
Nee, aber ich glaube, das geht auch ein Szenario ohne das. Also ich glaube, ursprünglich war es ja, was ich zum Beispiel, du und der Vic, ihr fliegt mit dem Scott nach Kissimmee. Dann hast du deinen Checkout zum Beispiel. Dann fliegt ihr nochmal los mit Vic diesmal dran. Dann landet ihr wieder in Kissimmee und dann schnappt ihr euch beide Flieger. So, du und der Vic noch nicht ganz ausgecheckt, fliegt wieder zurück. Und der Scott fliegt alleine zurück, zum Beispiel. Und dann habe ich halt meinen Checkout in Orlando North. Das wäre eine Option.
Das ging auch, ja.
Genau.
Dann darf der Weg nur nichts tun.
Der darf halt daneben dran sitzen, aber das kann er ja auch.
Der darf nur gut aussehen.
Genau. Leichtes Übung, ja.
Ja, aber irgendwie werden wir das schon hinbekommen.
Ja,
Ja.
genau.
Und ich glaube, hängt ganz stark davon ab, wenn in Kissimmee nicht viel los ist, glaube ich, ist das mit Kissimmee nicht rauskommen. Also, weil ich meine, nach Orlando North zu kommen, ist, glaube ich, jetzt nicht so das Drama, sondern einfach da in Kissimmee gleich funken und selbst fliegen beim ersten Mal alleine. Das ist halt einfach.
Und dann noch so halb im Jetlag und so, das ist halt
Ja,
so ein bisschen so, genau.
Zu zweit macht es einfach mehr Spaß.
Ja. Genau.
Gut, ich gehe da
Klar,
noch.
der andere muss dann 2 Stunden warten am Flugplatz, aber ich glaube, das kriegen wir irgendwie hin. Der hat ja ein Auto auch noch, wer auch immer das ist, und dann kriegen wir das schon rum. Sorry, Georg, du wolltest noch was sagen?
Ja, ich komme dann am Freitagabend, fahre ich dann irgendwie mit Uber oder sowas ins Hotel und dann treffen wir uns dann im Hotel. Und ihr habt ja schon dann den Mietwagen wahrscheinlich, ne?
Ja, und je nachdem, wenn es zeitlich aufgeht, können wir dich natürlich auch abholen. Hängt jetzt ein bisschen davon ab, wie die Checkouts sich ausgehen, je nachdem.
Ja. Und wie lange ich in der Immigration stehe, ne? Ich
Nee,
glaube,
gut, aber man kann sich ja schreiben und
ja,
da
ja.
kann man sagen, okay, oh, die sind noch unterwegs, das wird nichts, dann wäre es mit dem Uber. Wenn es aber passt, mei, da kann man dich abholen, ist doch auch
Ja,
cool.
super. Ja, können wir dann ja texten.
Genau.
Genau.
Ich habe eben noch mit dem Ingo telefoniert, der taucht auch am Freitag auf. Wer weiß, vielleicht treffen wir den sogar noch zum Abendessen.
Wer ist Ingo? Den Namen habe ich ja schon ein paar Mal gehört.
Ingo ist auch einer unserer Mitglieder, der ist eigentlich auch relativ häufig bei den Online-Sessions dabei. Das ist der im Hintergrund immer die Cirrus hat. Ich weiß nicht, ob du ihn schon mal kennengelernt hast.
Ah ja, okay, ja, klar. Ach, stimmt ja, der wollte ja alles auf eigene Rechnung rüberfliegen, ne? So war
Ja,
das.
weil der noch in Miami beruflich ist und deswegen konnte der das halt jetzt nicht komplett mit der Tour mit uns verbinden, weil er halt halb beruflich und halb privat da jetzt fliegt. Aber es ist ja trotzdem schön, wenn man sich hier und da mal trifft.
Ja, klar. Okay, dann ist das Rätsel auch gelöst.
Cool.
Gut. Nee, also mit seinem Fragebogen hat er mich sehr beruhigt.
Ja.
Ich habe euch eben noch ein schönes Video geteilt zum Thema Minimaß in den verschiedenen Lufträumen. Hier ist eine schöne Eselsbrücke drin, wer es schon gesehen hat. Also ich vergesse es jetzt nie wieder.
War das die Cessna?
Genau, die Cessna 152 und die Foxtrot 111. Ja,
Aber es war die Foxtrot 111.
das ist über 10.000 Fuß.
Ah,
1000
5
Fuß
Meilen,
oberhalb, 1000 Fuß
Miles.
drunter. Hm? Genau, 5 miles Visibility,
Ja.
1000 Fuß drüber, 1000 Fuß drunter und 1000 Fuß geradeaus. Foxtrot 111. Ja,
hm.
Ja, das schaue ich mir noch an. Habe ich heute leider noch nicht geschafft.
Macht nichts. YouTube gucken, das hilft.
ja.
Ja, das ist immer so das Problem. YouTube
Ja.
ist so.
Ja, und Landegebühren habe ich mich fast ein bisschen gewundert. Ich dachte immer noch, das wäre irgendwie alles umsonst da drüben. Aber gut, je größer der Flugplatz, desto unwahrscheinlicher wahrscheinlich.
Also ich kenne es
Ja,
auch nur umsonst. Also und dann meist noch ein Courtesy Car am Flugplatz, das du auch noch kostenlos nutzen kannst. Also ich habe, glaube ich, noch nie in Texas irgendwelche Gebühren bezahlt.
Ja, ich glaube, das hängt erstmal davon ab, wie zentral und wie busy der Airport ist. Und zweitens ist es generell, dass es langsam alles teurer wird, auch da drüben. Auch der Sprit, also wie gesagt, wenn die sagen, Sprit ist teuer, $6 die Gallone, da lachen wir nicht drüber, aber für die kommen aus einer ganz anderen Ecke. Da war früher mal unter einem Dollar, also unter $6, also $4, oder keine Ahnung, was der früher gekostet hat. Aber bei denen gehen die Kosten massiv rauf auch, allerdings halt von einer anderen Basis.
Hm.
Und die Katrin hatte, als wir uns im Fly-In da getroffen haben in Hildesheim, hatte sie auch erwähnt, dass da jetzt, Landegebühren eingeführt werden. Also das scheint ganz aktuell zu sein.
Ja,
Cool.
15 Dollar kann man ja gerade noch so verknusen, ne?
Ja.
Wenn du schaust, was in Salzburg kostet zum Beispiel mittlerweile.
Eben.
Stimmt. Ja, habt ihr sonst noch irgendwie Fragen? Ist euch noch irgendwas? Also ich meine, wir haben ja auch den Chat noch, wo man gemeinsam nochmal drüber schauen kann. Georg nutzt den ja schon ganz fleißig.
Jo.
Und ja, ansonsten.
Also ich merke nur, also wenn ihr jetzt wirklich mit einem Fragebogen um die Ecke kommt, habe ich einfach die letzten 3 Tage meine Prioritäten falsch gesetzt.
Wir haben ja gesagt, leg das Buch weg.
Ja, ich habe das Buch auch weggelegt, ich habe es auch mit der App weitergemacht. Das Buch ist schon in meiner Ecke zum Verkaufen auf, wie heißt es, auf Momondo.
Gut. Ja, wunderbar.
Gut.
Alles klar. Dann, ja, habt einen schönen Abend und auf jeden Fall schon mal eine gute Reise an dich, Georg, vor allem auch.
Ja, ich glaube am Dienstag haben wir nochmal eine Session, ne? Aber jetzt nicht zu Florida, sondern Crossing Land.
Landung. Ja, bist du dabei, oder?
Da wollte ich dabei sein, ja.
Ja, cool. Das wird, glaube ich, auch echt spannend nochmal und halt genau nützlich für Bahamas auf jeden Fall.
Ja, glaube ich auch.
Ja.
Okay.
Gut, schön. Dann habt einen schönen Abend und ja, bis bald.
Ja,
Bis
bis dann.
Dienstag.
Ja,
Tschüss.
Ciao.
Okay. Ciao.